तं सागरे जातं सर्वमगमनाथामितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादां सर्वं श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमामि विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवानुपचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यादिपाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत वेदांत श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे सर्वशास्त्राब्धि पीयूष सर्ववेदैक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाढ्य सर्वलोकैक कृतकृत सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो विद्वांतोदितादित्य श्री कृष्ण परिवर्तित परमानंद पाठाय प्रेमवर्षक्षरायते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्री कृष्णाय नमस्तुते मतेक बंधो मत संगिन मत गुरो मन महाधना निस्तारक मत भाग्यवदानंद नमस्तुते प्रसादु साधुतादाय नतनी चोच्यताकर आनमुचे कदाचिन मां प्रेरणा कृतकंठयोस्पुर ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Let me bring Swami. Thirty-six. Shrimanti Gayanti. Today is 36 to 45. Shrimanti Gayanti Granantya Bhikshmashaha. Smaranti Nandanti Tavahitam Janaha. Taeva Pashyan. Wait. तएव पश्यन्त्यचिरेण तावकं भवप्रवाहो परमं पदाम्बुजम्. O Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. Um, okay. Srila Swami, अस्य पक्षस्य सिद्धान्तताम् अभिकृत्य श्रवणादि फलमाह शृण्वन्ति. So he has presented various views on why Lord Krishna descends to this world. And the view that she had last mentioned in text 35 was that Krishna comes to inspire everyone to engage in Navavida Bhakti, devotional service to him. So now he considers this to be the actual conclusion, the real reason. And she sets out the result of Shravanam, Kirtanam, and so on. Shrinvanti, Nandanti, Anyehi Kirtyam Manam Abhinandanti, Vejanaha, Ishitam, Charitam, Tavakam, Padiyam, Padambujam, Te eva Pashyanti eva, Achirena eva, Iti cha Sarvatra Avadhanam. Only those, that's the word eva here. Te eva, eva. Eva has a sense of only. So Srila Swami says, uh, they they are the only ones who get to see the lotus feet of the Lord. Eva should also be connected to Pashyanti. Pashyanti. That they, in this case, Eva will mean certainly. They certainly get to see the Lord. Eva should also be connected to the word Achirena. Very soon. They see him very soon. You can underline that word very soon to have the sense of Eva. Idrisham bhavapravahasya janma paramparahaya uparamo yasmim stat. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna cannot be seen by our present conditional vision. In order to see him, one has to change his present vision by developing a different condition of life, full of spontaneous love of Godhead. When Sri Krishna was personally present on the face of the globe, not everyone could see him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Materialists like Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, Jarasandha, and Shishupal were highly qualified personalities by acquisition of material assets, but they were unable to appreciate the presence of the Lord. Therefore, even though the Lord may be present before our eyes, it is not possible to see him unless we have the necessary vision. This necessary qualification is developed by the process of devotion service only, beginning with hearing about the Lord from the right sources. The Bhagavad Gita is one of the popular literatures which are generally heard, chanted, repeated, etc. by the people in general. But in spite of such hearing, etc., sometimes it is experienced that the performer of such devotion service does not see the Lord face to face. The reason is that the first item, Shravana, is very important. If hearing is from the right sources, it acts very quickly. Generally, people hear from unauthorized persons. Such unauthorized persons may be very learned by academic qualifications, but because they do not follow the principles of devotion service, hearing from them becomes a sheer waste of time. Sometimes they fashionably interpret the texts to suit their own purposes. Therefore, first one should select a competent and bona fide speaker and then hear from him. When the hearing process is perfect and complete, the other processes become automatically perfect in their own way. So hearing actually means learning. To learn about Krishna consciousness, it is important that right from the beginning one learns the right version. If he learns Krishna consciousness in the wrong manner, it becomes a big problem, very, very big problem. I know devotees who have been misled by their spiritual authorities to such an extent that they have found the proper presentation of Krishna consciousness to be simply some kind of torture. I knew someone who told her that her spiritual authorities had told her that the nectar of instruction, the Upadeshamrita, is a book which is meant to be consulted only in the last stage of your life. When you are about to die, or at least after the age of 50, only at that time you should start familiarizing yourself with Upadeshamrita. I will say the exact opposite. From the age of 5, we should train. Prabhupada wanted Upadeshamrita to be taught in the schools. So all these kind of problems are there. If you are mistrained in Krishna consciousness, it becomes a very, very serious problem. Then that person had been practicing Krishna consciousness for about 30 years. still does not have the right understanding of Krishna consciousness. Miserable. There are different transcendental activities of the Lord, and each and every one of them is competent to bestow the desired result provided the hearing process is perfect. In the Bhagavatam, the activities of the Lord begin from his dealings with the Pandavas. There are many other pastimes of the Lord in connection with his dealings with the Asuras and others. And in the 10th canto, the sublime dealings with his conjugal associates, the gopis and his married wives at Dwaraka are mentioned. Since the Lord is absolute, there is no difference in the transcendental nature of each and every dealing of the Lord. But sometimes people, in an unauthorized hearing process, take more interest in hearing about his dealings with the gopis. Such an inclination indicates the lusty feelings of the hearer. So, a bona fide speaker of the dealings of the Lord never indulges in such hearings. One must hear about the Lord from the very beginning, as in the Srimad Bhagavatam or any other scriptures. And that will help the hearer attain perfection by progressive development. One should not therefore consider that his dealings with the Pandavas are less important than his dealings with the gopis. We must always remember that the Lord is always transcendental to all mundane attachment. In all the above mentioned dealings of the Lord, he is the hero in all circumstances, and hearing about him or about his devotees or combatants is conducive to spiritual life. It is said that the Vedas and Puranas, etc., are all made to revive our lost relation with him. Hearing all these scriptures is essential. So it's not just because something is most exalted, we can hear, study, meditate on that alone. There is something called qualification. As we become more and more free from lust, anger, greed, as we become free from the very propensity to engage in sinful activities, and when we become free from the propensity to engage in sinless material activities, then we become qualified for meditating on the exalted pastimes of Lord Krishna. Even if you notice a book like Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is a very important book. In fact, if someone says that I cannot read Bhagavatam, I have a mental block towards reading Bhagavatam because it has so many volumes, I have the tendency to say, okay, then just read Krishna book. Read it again and again, again. You'll understand the essence of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. But even in Krishna book, you see, the book is about 900 pages in at least a certain edition. And prayers by the personified Vedas occupies about 100 pages. 1/9 of it. Even though prayers by the personified Vedas has only about some 60 verses. On the other hand, if you look at the Rasa Leela chapters, each of them have a comparable amount of verses, but Prabhupada has rendered them in a very simple, abbreviated fashion. So, if we hear from the right source, if we learn from the right source, then we are safe. So, hearing all these scriptures is essential, Vedas, Puranas, etc. But we need to do that from the right source. If it's not from the right source, it's not going to work. 37. Apyadyanastvam svakrite hita prabho jihasasi swit sukrudon jeevinah yesham na chanyad bhavatah padambuja parayanam rajasu yojitam hasam. O my Lord, you have executed all duties yourself. Are you leaving us today? Though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us now when all kings are at enmity with us? Idanim ava asmat parityagaha anuchitaha iti ashayenaha api iti chaturvihi. Then in 4 verses, she states, your leaving us at this point is inappropriate. Hey Prabhu, O Lord, O Master, Sukridaha, Atisnigdhan, Anujivanascha Naha, Adhyapi Swit, Imswit, One, Jihasasi, are you leaving us? We are your well-wishers. We are objects of your extreme affection. We subsist on you. Are you going to leave us? Yesham asmakam anyat parayanam na eva asti. We don't have any other shelter. Tat kutaha. What kind of situation and why? Rajasu yojita amhaha dukkham yaihi tesham swanam. See, now we are in a situation of distress caused by various kings. Kritam, swanam kritam, ihitam, apekshitam yena, tasya sampodana. Nisarganta pathe, tvam pararisheshana. The Pandavas are most fortunate because, with all good luck, they were entirely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. In the material world, to be dependent on the mercy of someone else is the utmost sign of misfortune. But in the case of our transcendental relation with the Lord, it is the most fortunate case when we can live completely dependent on Him. The material disease is due to thinking of becoming independent of everything. But the cruel material nature does not allow us to become independent. The false attempt to become independent of the stringent laws of nature is known as material advancement of experimental knowledge. The whole material world is moving on this false attempt of becoming independent of the laws of nature. Beginning from Ravana, who wanted to prepare a direct staircase to the planets of heaven, down to the people of the present age, they are trying to overcome the laws of nature. They're trying now to approach distant planetary systems by electronic mechanical power. But the highest goal of human civilization is to work hard under the guidance of the Lord and become completely dependent on Him. The highest achievement of perfect civilization is to work with valor, with courage, but at the same time depend completely on the Lord. The Pandavas were the ideal executors of this standard of civilization. Undoubtedly, they were completely dependent on the goodwill of Lord Sri Krishna, but they were not idle parasites of the Lord. They were all highly qualified, both by personal character and by physical activities. Still, they always looked for the mercy of the Lord because they knew that every living being is dependent by constitutional position. The perfection of life is therefore to become dependent on the will of the Lord instead of becoming falsely independent in the material world. Those who try to become falsely independent of the Lord are called anath, or without any guardian, whereas those who are completely dependent on the will of the Lord are called sanath, or those having someone to protect them. In India, it is very common to use these expressions. I need someone to take care of me. To speak all these things. In the modern world, modern civilization, because it is a dog-eat-dog world, everyone is just trying to exploit each other. People are terrified to even voice out such concerns. You say that, immediately somebody will come and exploit you, abuse you, and create hell in your life. But within a civilization that is based on obedience to the Lord in the form of dharma, you're much more secure. So therefore, having someone to protect you is a good thing. Sanatha Jivitam, that is a statement by Yamunacharya. That now that I have you to take care of me, it's a prayer to Lord Narayan. And it appears in Chaitanya Charitamrita also. And Prabhupada also quotes it. He says that, Yamunacharya says that I didn't have anyone to take care of me. Now that I've surrendered unto you, now I'm well taken care of. My life is perfect. I have someone to take care of me. Therefore, we must try to be sanatha so that we can always be protected from the unfavorable condition of material existence. By the deluding power of the external material nature, we forget that the material condition of life is the most undesirable perplexity. The Bhagavad Gita 7.19 therefore directs us that after many, many births, a fortunate person becomes aware of the fact that Vasudeva is all in all, and that the best way of leading one's life is to surrender unto him completely. That is the sign of a Mahatma. All the members of the Pandav family were Mahatmas in household life. Maharaj Yudhishthira was the head of these Mahatmas, and Queen Kunti Devi was the mother. The lessons of the Bhagavad Gita and all the Puranas, specifically the Bhagavata Purana, are therefore inevitably connected with the history of the Pandava Mahatmas. For them, separation from the Lord was just like the separation of a fish from water. Srimati Kunti Devi therefore felt such separation like a thunderbolt. And the whole prayer of the queen is to persuade the Lord to stay with them. After the battle of Kurukshetra, although the inimical kings were killed, their sons and grandsons were still there to deal with the Pandavas. It is not only the Pandavas who were put into the condition of enmity, but all of us are always in such a condition. And the best way of living is to become completely dependent on the will of the Lord and thereby overcome all difficulties of material existence. There's a question here. What is the systematic training one should get after joining Krishna consciousness? Yeah, like we have a New Bhakta program in Mayapur, something like that. That kind of experience should be given to everyone who takes to Krishna consciousness, at least when they become residential members of ISKCON. But if that kind of arrangement, a similar arrangement is worked out for the congregation, that will also be useful for them. You just carefully examine what elements are taught first, what elements are taught next. I liked the pre-initiation training manual published by Bhakti-vaibhava Mainers, UK. That I was impressed with that. That was quite good. Like that, you need to examine what other centers are doing. What is the step-by-step process one should make advancement? First of all, one should obey the teachings found in Bhagavad Gita. Next, one should obey the teachings found in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And then one should obey the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. Getting improper training also the karma phala of living entities. Now, I will link it to the propensities of that particular soul. One may receive proper training or improper training. That doesn't mean that that particular living entity will experience, will have the same experience as any other living entity subjected to the same type of proper or improper training. Because Krishna is always the backup spiritual master. So Krishna gives sufficient guidance to a person who deserves it. Now, who deserves it? The one who knows the science of pure devotion service to Krishna and who desires to progress in pure devotion service to Krishna towards the perfection of pure devotion service. That person deserves it. So therefore, in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna talks about the pure devotees. Machitta mandata prana modayanta parasparam kathayantascha nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. And then he says, what is the next verse? Tesham sadada yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tadami buddhiyogam tam yenamam upayanti te. Then Krishna takes them towards his lotus feet. Tesham eva anukampartham. Only for them. Tesham eva anukampartham. Only for them I give them the knowledge by which ignorance is dispelled. I give them that kind of understanding by which they get freed from the darkness of misconceptions. So if we have the right desire to progress in Krishna consciousness, then things are presented to us by Krishna himself in such a manner that we can understand it correctly. What is the difference between these three, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita? Chaitanya Charitamrita is the clearest presentation of Krishna consciousness. Srimad Bhagavatam is an introduction to that. And Bhagavad Gita is an introduction to that. I am talking about the text. You can include the synonyms and translation also. But when it comes to the purports, even in his Bhagavad Gita purports, Prabhupada has drawn content from Srimad Bhagavatam text and Chaitanya Charitamrita text. So when we read Bhagavad Gita as presented by Prabhupada, to some extent we are also introduced to the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita in the purports of Bhagavad Gita itself. The introduction, preface, purports, and so on. Similarly, when we look at Prabhupada's purports to Srimad Bhagavatam, his introduction, etc., introduction, chapter summaries, you will find content from Chaitanya Charitamrita text brought in. So, when we read Srimad Bhagavatam as presented by Prabhupada, and I have to include his disciples also, you will find that the content from Chaitanya Charitamrita is also brought in. Is also brought in. To some extent, it's brought in. And when you read Chaitanya Charitamrita itself with purpose, it is a very thorough presentation. Very, very thorough presentation. But Bhagavad Gita has its own, even the text of Bhagavad Gita has its own value because it establishes the foundation. You see how Prabhupada has organized his examination system. You wanted at higher levels, the lower level textbooks be retested. So in Prabhupada's method of education, you have first of all, the devotee should study Bhagavad Gita as it is thoroughly. Then they should study Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And then they should study Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that those who are not well grounded in Bhagavad Gita as it is, when they try to understand Srimad Bhagavatam and the purports, they usually commit some blunder. And those who are not firmly fixed in Bhagavad Gita with Prabhupada's purports and Srimad Bhagavatam with Prabhupada's purports, when they try to study Chaitanya Charitamrita, then again they falter. It's very important that we are properly based. Krishna will help us understand also. Bhagavad Gita, first of all, sets the mood. First of all, it sets the mood. It is Nivritti Marga. We should not touch Adharma or even Pravritti Dharma. It is Nivritti Marga. This is a very prominent message of Bhagavad Gita. Of course, Krishna also teaches higher teachings, but this is a very prominent message of Bhagavad Gita. And Srimad Bhagavatam goes one step further. It makes it even more clear. And Chaitanya Charitamrita makes it absolutely clear. So, they have their respective values. My teacher Gopi Prabhu used to say that the first step in the preaching mission is to make non-devotees into devotees, and the textbook for that is Bhagavad Gita. And the second step is to make is to take the devotees and make them into pure devotees, and the textbook for that is Srimad Bhagavatam. And the third step is to take the pure devotees and make them into perfect pure devotees, and the textbook for that is Chaitanya Charitamrita. So they all have their respective excellences, grades of excellences. Okay, 38. के वयं नामरूपाभ्यां यदुभिः सह पाण्डवाः भवतो दर्शनं यर्हि ऋषिकानां विवेशितुः. As the name and fame of a particular body is finished with the disappearance of the living spirit, similarly, if you do not look upon us, all our fame and activities along with the Pandavas and Yadus will end at once. Nano tava bandhavaha yadavaha putrascha pandavaha churaha samartaha cha tat kim karpanyam bhashase ataha kevayamiti. She anticipates that Lord Krishna might respond. Your relatives are the Yadus. Your sons are the Pandavas, who are heroes and who are capable. The Yadus are also heroic and capable. Then why are you talking in such a state of dejection? Now she responds to that. Kevayam iti. Yarhi bhavataha adarshanam yada tvam asmat na pashyasi. When you don't see us, tada namarupabhyam namna vikhyatya rupena samruddhya cha yadabhi sahita pandavaha nama kevayam takepi. If you don't look at us, then what is the use of the Yadus, the Pandavas, their fame? Here, name refers to fame, and form refers to prosperity. What is the use of our fame? What is the use of our prosperity? Nothing. Atituchha ityartha. Most insignificant. Vishikanam indriyanam ishituhu jivasya adarshane yatha na kinchin cha rupam cha tadvat. Just as when the Lord of the senses, the jiva, is not found in a body composed of senses, then there is no name and form for that body. When the living entity leaves this body, then the body will just decompose. It will no longer function as the person who had a certain name, who had a certain form, who had a certain set of characteristics. Like that. Tattva. Kunti Devi is quite aware that the existence of the Pandavas is due to Sri Krishna only. The Pandavas are undoubtedly well established in name and fame and are guided by the great King Yudhishthir, who is morality personified, and the Yadus are undoubtedly great allies. But without the guidance of Lord Krishna, all of them are non-entities, as much as the senses of the body are useless without the guidance of consciousness. No one should be proud of his prestige, power, and fame without being guided by the favor of the Supreme Lord. The living beings are always dependent, and the ultimate dependable object is the Lord himself. We may therefore invent, by our advancement of material knowledge, all sorts of contracting material resources, but without being guided by the Lord, all such inventions end in fiasco, however strong and stout the reactionary elements may be. 59. Neyam shubhishyate tatra yathedamim gadadhara patpade rankita bhati sulakshna vilakshitai. O Gadadhara, Krishna, our kingdom is now being marked by the impressions of your feet. Therefore, it appears beautiful. But when you leave, it will no longer be so. Moreover, yatha idanim iyam asmat palya bhumi svaihi asadharanaihi vajrankushadibhih लक्षणैः विलक्षितैः चिह्नितैः त्वत्पदैः अंकिता सती भाति. Now, this land, uh, which is under our governance, is marked by signs of your feet, which are unique to you. They have markings such as a thunderbolt, a goat to control the elephant, etc. These are unique to you. Tatra tada tvai vinirgate sati na shobhishyate. When you go away from this place, then the land will not look beautiful because it will no longer have those markings. There are certain particular marks on the feet of the Lord which distinguish the Lord from others. The marks of the flag, thunderbolt, the instrument for driving an elephant, that's the goad. Umbrella, lotus, disc, etc., are on the bottom of the Lord's feet. These marks are impressed upon the soft dust of the land where the Lord traverses. The land of Hastinapur was just marked while Lord Sri Krishna was there with the Pandavas, and the kingdom of the Pandavas just flourished by such auspicious signs. Buddhadev pointed out these distinguishing features and was afraid of ill luck in the absence of the Lord. 40. Ime janapadas spruddha supakvau shruti vanadri nadjutanvanto hyedhante tava vikshitaihi. All these cities and villages are flourishing in all respects because the herbs and grains are in abundance. The trees are full of fruits. The rivers are flowing. The hills are full of minerals. And the oceans are full of wealth. And this is all due to your glancing over them. He does not say, look how many skyscrapers we have. Look how many electronic devices we have invented. These are not signs of prosperity. Signs of prosperity are this: natural prosperity, something by which nature itself or nature herself supplies abundantly the fundamental necessities for human beings. Apicha. Furthermore, ime janapada desha, the lands, smriddha, susamriddha santah. The lands are very, very prosperous. This is called artha, natural wealth. Human prosperity flourishes by natural gifts and not by gigantic industrial enterprises. The gigantic industrial enterprises are products of a godless civilization, and they cause the destruction of the noble aims of human life. The more we go on increasing such troublesome industries to squeeze out the vital energy of the human being, the more there will be unrest and dissatisfaction of the people in general, although a few only can live lavishly by exploitation. There's a book called Techno Fix. The technology is not going to fix the problems of modern human civilization. Written by a husband and wife environmentalist couple, America. And there are some big shots in their field. The book is actually a textbook on environmental studies in the university. They believe in Darwinism, and I think that they are atheists also. But the book is a fine presentation of how crazy and how messed up the modern world is. They point out that before industrial civilization, mankind was actually much more peaceful because they were in touch with nature, they were in tune with nature. Lots of detailed observations they present. One thing I will point out, they say, just examine how a factory works. In a factory, you have factory workers who are subjected to standard routine activities. Same thing they have to do again. For how long? 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day. And in the so-called developing countries. More than that, 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day. What happens to men and women who are engaged in such routine activities? And these activities don't have any artistic significance. It's just some silly thing. You have to push some pipe, you have to beat something. What is that? That's all. That's all. That's all. You just have to go on doing it again. Same thing of pulling something or pushing something and kicking something, or what is this thing? So then naturally these people will become very annoyed, irritated, they'll become tensed, they'll become insecure, all kinds of complexities. So they point out this very civilization where they value these things. They only value the end product. They're not bothered about the processes by which we get those products and the effect it has on human beings. So on the other hand, they point out, if you look at the pre-industrial world, everything that is being produced, first of all, has a direct relationship with the consumer. Let's say you make food, and then you sell it to someone. And generally, it is through barter system within the same community, village. And in the village, everyone knows each other. So it is very easy to develop affectionate relationships with those whom you see on a periodical basis. And your dependency on them and their dependency on you is very tangible and visible. In the modern world, the products are coming from some other country and you don't even know who's making them. Somebody sitting in China is making things for a country like America. The people who are wearing some t-shirt or I don't know what, they're getting it from people who they don't even know who they are. It only makes you more and more cold. It doesn't contribute to warm human relationships. So these are all just ordinary observations. So what Prabhupada is saying here reflects such observations. There has been an expression of dissatisfaction about industrial civilization, very beginning of industrial civilization. From that time, the natural gifts such as grains and vegetables, fruits, rivers, the hills, full of jewels and minerals, and the seas full of pearls are supplied by the order of the Supreme. And as he desires, material nature produces them in abundance or restricts them. At times, the natural law is that the human being may take advantage of these godly gifts of nature and satisfactorily flourish on them without being captivated by the exploitative motive of lording it over material nature. The more we attempt to exploit material nature according to our whims of enjoyment, the more we shall become entrapped by the reaction of such exploitative attempts. If we have sufficient grains, fruits, vegetables, and herbs, then what is the necessity of running a slaughterhouse and killing poor animals? A man need not kill an animal if he has sufficient grains and vegetables to eat. The flow of river waters fertilizes the fields, and there is more than what we need. Minerals are produced in the hills and the jewels in the ocean. If the human civilization has sufficient grains, minerals, jewels, water, milk, etc., then why should it hanker after terrible industrial enterprises at the cost of the labor of some unfortunate men? But all these natural gifts are dependent on the mercy of the Lord. What we need, therefore, is to be obedient to the laws of the Lord and achieve the perfection of human life by devotional service. The indications by Kunti Devi are just to the point. She desires that God's mercy be bestowed upon them so that natural prosperity be maintained by His grace. Natural prosperity. Is it possible to stop these industries? I don't think so, because people are addicted to these things. So I don't think it'll be possible to stop it. But the people themselves they are already worried about it. In fact, even though we are supposed to be sattvic souls, contributing to our welfare and the world's welfare, there are many more non-devotees who are more worried about this than us. And I think that because we are pure followers of the non-devotee world, at some point when they follow these things, we will also follow. We require all these non-devotees to teach us that we should be obedient to Prabhupada. So it will come. It will come. Ultimately, annat bhavanti bhutani. You don't get food. From where do you get food? We need real potato chips, not computer chips. Those who like potato. Okay. Achyutanam.
Prabhuji, when you said about this repeated work in factory, so someone can argue that household duties are also repetitive. If someone is doing farming, he is also doing same activity. So he also is bound to become frustrated. Every day milking the cow, every day washing the like tilling the land or washing the pots, like same
No.
service.
In an agrarian civilization, these repetitive work is, first of all, not artificially forced upon you by market consumerism. It is based on what is factually required by the community. It is not propelled on greed. It is based on need. It's a need-based civilization. It's not a greed-based civilization. Civilizations dictate what is kartavya and akartavya is dictated by civilizations. And within the civilizations, you have countries. The countries adopt the kartavyas and akartavyas as their policies, national policies. So previously, the kingdoms were the countries, and their policies were all based on Vedic civilization, which is a need-based civilization, not a greed-based civilization. Because the whole idea is to get out of material existence, not to try to enjoy material existence. It was very, very different. It's very, very different. The whole arrangement is made by which people can become increasingly absorbed in knowledge, meditation, and service to the Supreme Lord. Become increasingly fixed in knowledge of the Supreme Lord, meditation on the Supreme Lord, and service to the Supreme Lord. It is for this purpose that everything is organized in that manner. How to get out of samsara chakra. 41. अथ विश्वेश विश्वात्मन विश्वमूर्ते स्वकेशु मे स्नेहपाशम इमं छिन्धि दृढ़ं पांडुषु वृष्णिषु. O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the form of the universe, please add for severe my tie of affection for my kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. Gamane Pandavanam Akusha, Agamane cha Yadavanam iti Upayataha, Yakula Chitta Sati, Teshu Snehan Nivrittim Prarthayate Atheti. If Krishna leaves this place, Hastinapur, to Dwaraka, then there will be inauspiciousness for the Pandavas. If he does not leave Hastinapur to Dwaraka, then the Yadavas will experience inauspiciousness. Thinking in this manner, she became disturbed about both of these possibilities. Therefore, he's now praying to the Lord, please remove my affection. Just remove my affection for both of them. Vishvesha ityadi sambodhanani snehapasha chede samarthya khyapanaaya. She is referring to the Lord as, O Lord of the universe, O soul of the universe, O personality of the form of the universe. This is to point out that Krishna is fully capable of cutting the knots, cutting the ropes of affection. In India, affection is often considered to be a rope that binds you. Even in Tamil, they have an expression which is derived from the Sanskrit expression, Asha Pasha. Pasha means noose. With noose, Yamaraji tools. So it is recognized that affection is actually a noose in which you are entrapped and pulled here and there. Here also we see Sneha Pasha, Dridam Santam. A pure devotee of the Lord is ashamed to ask anything in self-interest from the Lord, but the householders are sometimes obliged to ask favors from the Lord, being bound by the tie of family affection. Srimati Kunti Devi was conscious of this fact, and therefore she prayed to the Lord to cut off her affectionate ties to her own kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. The Pandavas are her own sons. The Vrishnis are the members of her paternal family. Krishna was equally related to both the families. These are all considered fundamental building blocks of Vedic civilization. Families. If you break family, then you break dharma. Very, very important. That is why Grihastha Ashrama is not just one man and one woman living together. It is family life. 3 generations live together. If you have sons, the sons don't leave you after they get married. Even before marriage, they are meant to be there. The daughter is married off and given off. So the family unit is very, very, very important. Otherwise, you'll simply become animalistic. At least dharma prevents people from becoming animalistic. So Krishna considers and demonstrates certain important principles by adhering to the duties that are necessary for maintaining family ties. Krishna was equally related to both the families. Both the families required the Lord's help because both were dependent devotees of the Lord. Srimati Kunti Devi wished Sri Krishna to remain with her sons, the Pandavas, but by his doing so, her paternal house would be bereft of the benefit. All these partialities troubled the mind of Kunti, and therefore she desired to cut off the affectionate tie. A pure devotee cuts off the limited ties of affection for his family and widens his activities of devotion service for all forgotten souls. The typical example is the band of 6 Goswamis who followed the path of Lord Chaitanya. All of them belonged to the most enlightened and cultured rich families of the higher castes. But for the benefit of the mass of population, they left their comfortable homes and became mendicants. To cut off all family affection means to broaden the field of activities. Without doing this, no one can be qualified as a Brahmana, a king, a public leader, or a devotee of the Lord. Even in today's world, amongst the non-devotees, I remember reading in some newspaper, long time back, if you want to be a vigilant means somebody who wants to do good to society by removing various forms of injustice. Like the man who wants to, hypothetically, like how they write in novels, hypothetically, he wants to take over some chemical company which is actually pumping pesticides, and because of that, so many children are all dying. And so he does something, inspires a whistleblower, and he does this, he does that, so many things. So there are vigilantes. These are people who are interested in keeping track of how to do good to the world, even materially how to do good to the world. So in that newspaper article, it was very clearly noted that vigilantism comes with the cost. If you want to do good to others, then you should understand that the evil forces which are perpetrating their evil activities, they will not leave you alone. They will attack you. They will attack you. They'll attack you. They'll attack everyone dear to you. They'll want to stop you. So to stop you, they will attack you in so many ways. Now there are different. The worst thing that they want is they don't want that vigilant to increase the number of vigilants. So it is not enough just to kill that person, because then, like a virus, that idea of becoming a vigilant will enter into other educated people and so on, courageous young people. And generally, when you are young, you're very adventurous, very much Supermanish in thought. So you want to do all these things. You do, I want to do something good, all these things. So then when the idea spreads like a virus, it becomes a problem. So they want to stop that. So now to stop that, what will they do? If you are a part of a family, they'll kidnap your son, they'll attack your wife, they will harm your parents. This is what they do. If you want to be a vigilant, you want to do good to others, then you should understand that you are putting yourself in risk. So it's commonly known that if you want to do good to others, then first of all, become disconnected from anything else. Don't become dependent on anything else. That is the safest position. So if you're alone, you don't have a family, you are not dependent on anyone. So people cannot blackmail you in so many ways also. So it is commonly known, if you want to do real good to society and you want to do moral good means you want to make people moral, you want to make them spiritual, religious, spiritual, and so on, which are higher forms of welfare work. Then you should yourself be fully detached and renounced, because in family life, you necessarily have to experience compromises. It is most unpalatable to hear, but family life is a life of compromise. You cannot do everything you cannot do all the good that you want to do. It is simply not practical. In so many ways, it's in so many ways. And the non-devotees know this very well. The personality of Godhead as an ideal king showed this by example. Sri Ramachandra cut off the tie of affection for his beloved wife to manifest the qualities of an ideal king. Such personalities as a Brahmana, devotee, king, or a public leader must be very broad-minded in discharging their respective duties. Srimati Kunti Devi was conscious of this fact. Being weak, she prayed to be free from such bondage of family affection. The Lord is addressed as the Lord of the universe, or the Lord of the universal mind, indicating his all-powerful ability to cut the hard knot of family affection. Therefore, it is sometimes experienced that the Lord, out of his special affinity towards a weak devotee, breaks the family affection by force of circumstances arranged by his all-powerful energy. But I should also point out that there is a need for family affection at a lower level for those who are weak in spirituality and who are weak in their aspirations to become fully pure in devotion service to the Lord. For them it is required. For them family affection is required. Now, I may be weak in Krishna consciousness, but I may have strong aspirations to become fully pure. So then, if I take the right steps, then I can also become sufficiently strong with the strength being that, with the spiritual strength that is commensurate, that is proportionate to my strong aspiration. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will arrange for that. Nityananda Prabhu will arrange for that. But there are those who do not even have strong affection. They do not have strong aspiration at all. For these people, family affection is very, very important, because otherwise they will become animals. So once one comes to the point where he's not interested in pursuing sinful material life or sinless material life, he wants to pursue pure devotional service to Krishna, to attain the perfection of pure devotional service. Then he becomes eligible to think along the lines that Kunti Devi is indicating here. By doing so, he causes the devotee to become completely dependent on him. and thus clears the path for his going back to Godhead. There's a question here. How a new devotee can decide which ashram he can join? Or by default, he should get married. That's all. By default, he should get married. If he even thinks like this, he should get married. That's all. Which ashram itself means one ashram. There's ashram. The moment one asks that question, it means he has to get married. Because if you want to progress and become a Nirupeksha sadhaka, this question will not even arise. 42. Vayi me nanya vishaya patir madhupate sakrit ratim udbhata daddha gange vau gham mudanvati. O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone. Should get married doesn't mean that immediately get married. Should experience brahmacharya, time-bound brahmacharya, and get proper training. Then get married. Without any preparation, you enter into family life, then you'll be a mess. You'll not contribute towards building a spiritual, religious, moral family. So then people will say, what did you learn from Islam? So that becomes a mess also. We don't want to create mess in that way also. But if one wants to if one wants to attain the highest perfection of life, I'm only talking about the aspiration. If aspiration is one thing, strength is another thing. So if one has the aspiration, just like I'll give a material example. There are people who want to become, who are very serious about becoming billionaires. They are not rich right now. And right now, it doesn't seem that they have the capacity. But they want to build their capacity. They want to build their capacity. Now, you may say they're greedy, because there's a difference between desire and greed. And this person's ambition seems more like a greed than desire, because he seems to be aiming for something. I personally know someone who once he said that I want to become like Bill Gates. He said it. I want to become like Bill Gates. So there are people like that. So even they recognize that there's a difference between the aspiration that you have and your current strength. And if you have a great aspiration, then you can build up your strength. Very hard work. Of course, you'll be limited by the law of karma. That is that. That is that. Okay. But in spiritual life, you are not. If you are seeking prema bhakti through Shuddha bhakti, you're not limited by the law of karma. So where there is a will, there is a way actually fits in very nicely with the process of Uttama Bhakti, first class devotion service as taught in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Upadeshamrita. So if one has that strong aspiration, then Krishna will give that strength and put him under particular types of association by which he can develop them. But if he does not even have strong aspiration, then what do you do? So for these people, they need to go through the process by which they will develop strong aspiration at a later point in time, after which they will also be able to take up the same process. Okay, 42. All right, you want me to cut off the ropes of your affection, and then what? This is what I want. Ananya Vishaya Sati Me Matihi Ratin Udvahatat Anavachinam Pritim Karotu Ityarthaha Ogham Puram यथा गंगा प्रतिबंधम न गणयति एवं मतिरपि विघ्नान् मा गणयतु इति भावः. Just as the Ganges does not consider anything which is obstructing her when she flows, so like that, may my mind also not consider any obstacle between me and you. You means your pleasure and your service, your association. Perfection of pure devotion service is attained when all attention is diverted towards the transcendental loving service of the Lord. To cut off the tie of all other affections does not mean complete negation of the finer elements like affection for someone else. This is not possible. A living being, whoever he may be, must have this feeling of affection for others because it is a symptom of life. Vichara rago, chetana dharma, deliberation and affection are both features of the soul. The symptoms of life, such as desire, anger, hankerings, feelings of attraction, etc., cannot be annihilated. Only the objective has to be changed. Desire cannot be negated, but in devotional service, the desire is changed only for the service of the Lord in place of desire for sense gratification. The so-called affection for family, society, country, etc., consists of different phases of sense gratification. When this desire is changed for the satisfaction of the Lord, it is called devotional service. In the Bhagavad Gita, we can see that it was just to satisfy his own personal desires that Arjuna refused to fight with his brothers and relations. But when he heard the message of the Lord, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, he changed his decision and served the Lord. For his doing so, he became a famous devotee of the Lord, for it is declared in all the scriptures that Arjuna attained spiritual perfection by devotion service to the Lord in friendship. The fighting was there, the friendship was there, Arjuna was there, and Krishna was there. But Arjuna became a different person by devotion service. Therefore, the prayers of Kunti also indicate the same categorical changes in activities. Srimati Kunti wanted to serve the Lord without diversion. That was her prayer. This unalloyed devotion is the ultimate goal of life. Our attention is usually diverted to the service of something which is non-godly or not in the program of the Lord. When the program is changed into the service of the Lord, that is to say, when the senses are purified in relation with the service of the Lord, it is called pure, unalloyed devotion service. Srimati Kunti Devi wanted that perfection and prayed for it from the Lord. Her affection for the Pandavas and the Vrishnis is not out of the range of devotion service because the service of the Lord and the service of the devotees are identical. Sometimes service to the devotee is more valuable than service to the Lord, but here the affection of Kunti Devi for the Pandavas and the Vrishnis was due to family relation. This tie of affection in terms of material relation is a relation of Maya, because the relations of the body or the mind are due to the influence of the external energy. The relations of the soul established in relation with the Supreme Soul are factual relations. When Kunti Devi wanted to cut off the family relation, she meant to cut off the relation of the skin. The skin relation is the cause of material bondage, but the relation of the soul is the cause of freedom. This relation of the soul to the soul can be established by the medium of the relation with the super soul. Seeing in the darkness is not seeing, but seeing by the light of the sun means to see the sun and everything else which was unseen in the darkness. That is the way of devotional service. What about karma phala? It will get cut off if he has strong aspiration. If he has strong aspiration and he is taking advantage of the opportunities given by Krishna to develop spiritual strength, then the karma phala will get cut off proportionate to the degree to which he is strong. So, gradual. As I take medicine and follow the diet, my sickness will reduce to whatever degree. 43. Shri Krishna Krishna Saka Vrishabhavanidhrup Rajanya Vamsha Dakana Napavarga Virya Govinda Godvija Surarti Haravatara Yogeshwara Khilaguro Bhagavan Namaste. O Krishna, a friend of Arjuna, a chief amongst the descendants of Vrishni, you are the destroyer of those political parties which are disturbing elements on this earth. Your prowess never deteriorates. You are the proprietor of the transcendental abode and you descend to relieve the distresses of the cows, the brahmanas, and the devotees. You possess all mystic powers. You are the receptor of the entire universe. You are the Almighty God. And I offer you my respectful obeisances. Evam abhyarthya punah pranamati. Having offered these prayers, having urged the Lord in this manner, again she offers her pranam or obeisances. Hey Shri Krishna, Te Namaha. O Shri Krishna, I offer my obeisances unto you. Upakaran anusmaranti muhada sambodhayati. Remembering all the help that the Lord has given, she addresses him in many ways. Krishna Sakha Arjunasya Sakhe. You are Krishna Sakha. You are the friend of Arjuna. Vrishninam Rishabha Shrestha. You are the best of the Vrishnis. Avanyai Bhumyai Druhyanti Ye Rajanyaha Tesham Vanshasya Dahana. You burn the dynasty of the kings who torment Avani, who torment the earth. Evamapi anapavarga virya akshina prabhava. Your prowess does not diminish. Govinda. Praptakama dhen vaishvarya. You have the opulence of possessing the Kamadhenus. Oh, Dvija, Suranam, Artiharaha, Avataraha, Yasyeti. Your incarnation, your descent is to remove the arti, the distress of the cows, the twice born, and the demigods. Demigods are obedient citizens. So therefore, they are often brought in the prayers in Srimad Bhagavatam. So we can propose any youth, he can try for brahmacharya. This is a parallel conversation going on. It will be worth it. It will be worth it. They should be trained to experience proper Krishna conscious brahmacharya. Proper. Whatever time they provide, it will be a good investment for their future. Without brahmacharya, vanaprastha is impossible. The Brahmanas, they are allowed to be brahmacharis, grihasthas, vanaprasthas, sannyasis. Kshatriyas are allowed to be brahmacharis, grihasthas, vanaprasthas, but no sannyas. The Vaishyas, they are allowed to be brahmacharis and grihasthas. They cannot be vanaprasthas or sannyasis. The Shudras, they cannot accept brahmacharya, but they can accept garhastya. They cannot accept vanaprastha or sannyas. This is natural ones. So if we train a person to become more and more sattvic, then it will be possible for them to be a brahmachari, at least for some time. Achyutanam Prabhu.
Prabhu, in purport 141, where you explained cutting off family affection, Prabhupada is also saying for Brahmana king, public leader and devotee. But we see most of the Kshatriyas and kings, they were married, public leader, administrators, they were married people only. So how they were cutting off their family affection?
Yeah, that's why at a certain point you are supposed to become a vanaprastha. Kshatriyas are meant to be brahmacharis and then grihasthas and then vanaprasthas.
But if he'll become Vanprastha, he'll be no more a public leader. He'll go to forest.
No, but he's setting an example that this is what the public should do. Everybody should focus on spiritual life. The ultimate achievement is spiritual. That message will go across. Very important. Retirement is very much valued.
No, like I was asking this in light of doing good to others. So when you said that if family is not there, if he's alone, his opponents cannot blackmail him by harming his family. So all this will come only when he is active in his administration life. Like he is a Kshatriya and then he is alone, so no one can blackmail him and he can do things. So in that context, I was asking.
Oh, no, no, no. First of all, there's a whole network that protects his environment. That is why a king's family, is well protected in the Antahpura, inner quarters. It's a secure environment, well protected. The whole arrangement is made in such a manner that they're all well taken care of. Kshatriyas also generally have many wives, and maid servants and all that, so that they can take care of the public. But if everything is exploited and made into a mess, then anything can happen. Anything can happen. Anything can happen means that the royal dynasty itself may be completely destroyed. There is one place in the Rajadharma section of Shanti Parva, if I remember correctly, a portion of Mahabharata. Bhishma is talking to Yudhishthira about governance. And there is a discussion about a king who doesn't distribute foodstuffs to poor children and so on. If he's so bad, he himself says that people should surround him and beat him up, kill him or something like that. Very terrible. So these things can also happen. It's a responsible life. A summary of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is made herein by Srimati Kunti Devi. The Almighty Lord has his eternal transcendental abode where he is engaged in keeping Surabhi cows. He is served by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. He descends to the material world to reclaim his devotees and to annihilate the disturbing elements amongst the groups of political parties and kings who are supposed to be in charge of administration work. He creates, maintains, and annihilates by his unlimited energies, and still he is always full with prowess and does not deteriorate in potency. The cows, the brahmanas, and the devotees of the Lord are all objects of his special attention because they are very important factors for the general welfare of living beings. Notice that they are objects of his special attention because they are important factors for all the living beings. Krishna always considers what is good for everyone. 44. Sutavacha. Prathayet tham kalapadai. Parinutakhilodayaha. Mandam jahasa vaikuntho. Mohayanniva mayaya. Suta Goswami said, the Lord, thus hearing the prayers of Kunti Devi, composed in choice words for his glorification, mildly smiled. That smile was as enchanting as his mystic power. Pralani mudhurani padani yeshu tair vakyaihi prinutaha sutaha kilaha udayaha mahimaya saha. So the Supreme Lord was glorified with very sweet words. And the Supreme Lord is filled with unlimited glory. Nu sutau ityasmat parinuteti vaktavye dirghas chandona rodhena mandam ishat tasya haseva maya. His smile is itself a maya. Vakshyatihi haso janonmada karicha maya. It will be stated later on, where it must be second canto, yes. Hasa iti dvitiya skandasya prathamadhyayikatrimsham padyamidam. This is second canto, first chapter, 31st verse. His smile itself is maya, which bewilders the population. Anything that is enchanting in the world is said to be a representation of the Lord. The conditioned souls who are engaged in trying to lord it over the material world are also enchanted by his mystic powers, but his devotees are enchanted in a different way by the glories of the Lord, and his merciful blessings are upon them. His energy is displayed in different ways as electrical energy works in manifold capacities. Srimati Kunti Devi has prayed to the Lord just to enunciate a fragment of his glories. All his devotees worship him in that way by chosen words, and therefore the Lord is known as Uttama Shloka. No amount of chosen words is sufficient to enumerate the Lord's glories, and yet he is satisfied by such prayers, as the father is satisfied even by the broken linguistic attempts of the growing child. The word Maya is used both in the sense of delusion and mercy. So, in other words, Mohayanniva Mayaya, that smile was as enchanting as his mystic power. Also means that smile was as enchanting as his mercy. Herein the word Maya is used in the sense of the Lord's mercy upon Kunti Devi. 45. Tam Badhamityupamantya pravishya gajasahvayam striyascha swapuram yasyan premana ragya nivaritaha. Thus, accepting the prayers of Srimati Kunti Devi, the Lord subsequently informed other ladies of his departure by entering the palace of Hastinapur. But upon preparing to leave, he was stopped by King Yudhishthir, who implored him lovingly. Acha. Wait. What is this verse? This is text 45. It is 45. Vayi me ananya vishaya matiriti yat prathitam tad badham iti angikritya. So the Lord said, okay, to the prayer, may my mind be fixed on you exclusively. He agreed to that. Rajasthana, Rajasah Vayam Agatya, from the place where the chariot was situated, he came to Gajasahvayam, which is Hastinapur. Paschat, Tam, Cha, Anyascha, Subhadra Pramukhastriyaha, Upamantriya, Anugyapya. Then he took permission from her, Kunti Devi, as well as the other ladies, headed by Subhadra. Swapuram Yasyan. And then he was on the way to his own city, Dwaraka. Ragya Yudhishthirena Premana Atraiva Kinchit Kalam Nivasa iti Samprarthya Nivaritaha. Then King Yudhishthir, out of affection, requested him, please stay here itself for some time. In this way, he was stopped. No one could make Lord Krishna stay at Hastinapur when he decided to start for Dwaraka, but the simple request of King Yudhishthir that the Lord remain there for a few days more was immediately effective. This signifies that the power of King Yudhishthir was loving affection, which the Lord could not deny. The Almighty God is thus conquered only by loving service and nothing else. He is fully independent in all his dealings, but he voluntarily accepts obligations by the loving affection of his pure devotees. Okay, so this is done. And I don't have time for dealing with the Acharya's explanations. So I have to take this up tomorrow only. Okay, so we'll stop with that then. Anshakapurvesha Kripasindhabhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo.